Hey everyone, Johnny B here. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use a Cloud Function and Postman to quickly delete a Firebase user. I'm assuming you already have a project set up for Firebase and Cloud Functions, so if you haven't done that, then check out some of the links in the description for getting all that set up. So the reason I made this function is while doing development and testing on a registration process using Firebase, you tend to register over and over and over. And you usually end up with one of two things. Either you end up making up a whole bunch of kind of like nonsense emails like test@test.com, test@test2.com, asdf@jkl whatever.com, and you end up with a whole bunch of useless users in your authentication tab. And the second option is you use a real one, but then you have to delete that user each time you want to use it to test your registration process again. Now, it's not an immensely time-consuming process to go into the Firebase console and delete it manually, but it does take some time and it gets old real quick. So that's where our Cloud Function comes in. And I'm going to demonstrate this using the e-commerce project that I teach in my course called Artable, okay? And that's this app right here. All right, so first let's go through the registration process and show you the slow way of having to go in and delete a Firebase user. So we go to create new user here. I'm gonna put in a username, email, info@johnnybcodes.com, password 123123, 123123, and then we are going to say register. All right, very cool. All right, so here's the app. Now, say, something went wrong and in the registration process, and we need to test that again. All right, so okay. So I go to log out, and if I go to create new user, and if I put in that same email, info@johnnybcodes.com, 123123, 123123. I try to register, we're gonna get an error saying that this email is already in use with another account. Pick another email. So you may have forgotten, but if you didn't, then you need to go and delete this. So here I already have the tab open. You'd need to come here to your authentication tab, refresh this, and as you can see here, I do have a whole bunch of these kind of nonsense ones. You know, we got Johnny Art2, JJ, Johnny Adanan, yada, yada, yada. And then you have to find the one that you just created. We can make that a little bit easier by sorting by created. And then this is the one that we just created, info@johnnybcodes.com. And if I delete this, whoops, that's not what I want, not disable, I want to. And if I delete the account, it's gone. Now I can come back here and again register with that email, johnnybcodes.com, 123123, 123123, and now we can register again and everything's good. All right, so like I said, not super time consuming, but doing it over and over, that gets very repetitive. And as programmers, when we have something that is time consuming and repetitive, what do? We try to automate it. All right, so the plan is we're going to create a Cloud Function that we can quickly call from Postman. And if you haven't used Postman before, it is a great free app to work with APIs and network requests in general. So if you just go to getpostman.com, you can download that right here. And yeah, it's super easy to use. It looks like this when you got it up and running. All right, so first we need to create our Cloud Function though. So I'm gonna open up Visual Studio Code, VS Code. And I'm the first one to admit that I am not a JavaScript expert. That is not my area of expertise. So there are probably some ways that you could optimize this code that we're about to write. So if you are a JavaScript expert and you see some ways that we can optimize this, feel free to let me know in the comments. All right, so let's create our function that is going to delete a user, okay? So we are going to say export dot, and then we give it a name for this function. So I'm going to say delete user by email. And this is going to be equal to functions.https.onRequest. And then we are going to say async. And then we're going to have a request and a response. Okay. And then let's do the arrow and then curly brackets and press return. And let me bump up the text here for you. All right, so this is basic boilerplate code for a cloud function that will be triggered directly by a network request. Let me make that lowercase response right there. All right, and so all we need to make this cloud function work is the Firebase functions, which we initialize up here. And we need to know the user email that we want to delete. All right, so we're going to pass that in the body of the network request that we send from Postman, and we're going to receive that in here as const user is equal to request.body.user email. Okay. And then what we can do with our user email is we can use admin.auth to retrieve that user. So we're going to say await admin.auth.get user by email. And then we pass in user, which we just got right here. I should probably call this user email just to be clear. So I'm going to swap that. And then we're going to say dot then, and we have function, and we are going to get a user record from this function. So I'm going to say curly brace. Let me drop this down here. Okay, so this user record here, this is the user record for the Firebase user. And with that, we can get the UID, and that's what we need to actually call the function to delete the Firebase user, okay? So we're going to grab that. We're gonna say const UID is equal to user record.uid. And just to be clear, if you look in your authentication tab in Firebase, this UID that we're grabbing right here is this number right here, this ID. All right, so back to VS Code. So we have the UID. Now what we can do is we can delete that user by calling admin.auth.delete user, and we pass in that UID. And then once that's finished, we're gonna say dot then, and here we have function, and we don't need anything here, so say curly brace. So we have dot then function. All right, so this is where it is successful. We have successfully deleted the user. So we can just go ahead and log that. I'm gonna say console.log, and we'll send a message, successfully deleted user, okay? And then we're going to terminate. We're gonna finish this cloud function by saying response.status, and we'll give it a 200 status, meaning that everything went according to plan. And then we're going to send that, and we'll send it with a message saying deleted user. Very good. All right, so now if something went wrong, we're gonna say dot catch, and we'll say function error curly braces. And if something went wrong, we'll go ahead and log that error, console.log, and we'll say error deleting user. And then we'll go ahead and add in the error right there. That looks good. And then we'll also finish the cloud function by saying response.status 500.send, and we'll just say fail to delete user. And there's a couple reasons that this could fail. It could be that something went wrong, or it could be that that user doesn't exist. So we'll say user may not exist. Alrighty, very good. So that looks good. Well, we need to do one more catch here. So just to make sure that we handle if the getting the user by email fails. So we'll say dot catch and say function error. And we will go ahead and log that to the console as well. So I'm going to say console.log, and we're going to say error fetching user data, and then we will include the error as well right here. And we will finish this with a response.status of type 500, which is usually a server internal error. And we'll say send, and we'll say failed. And that's looking pretty good. Let me just look over this once more. We got the user email that we receive from the Postman or the network request in general in the body. We go ahead and then we go and we get the user record using that email. We get the UID from the user record, and then we can delete that user passing in the UID. Very good. All right, so I'm going to save that, open up terminal, and I'm already here in my directory for this project. And I'm just going to go ahead and say I'm going to deploy this. Just to make it easy, I'm going to deploy all of them. So I'm going to say Firebase deploy. And that's going to go ahead and deploy those. Whoops. All right. Looks like we have some errors here. All right. So each then should return, avoid nesting promises. All right. So it doesn't like some of my nested promises here, and prefer arrow callback. All right. So let's go ahead and fix this. So I think what they want me to do is to use the arrow format. So just going to change all of these parts where I have function, and instead of function, go ahead and add that arrow after. So here we have function, error, there we go. And then same thing over here. There we go. And then it didn't like my nested promises. So what we're gonna do is we are going to do this. We're gonna say return admin.auth. I don't think we need this await actually. So I'm gonna say get rid of that await. We have a return here. Then we have a return here. And then we'll close this one off right here with a curly brace and parentheses. We'll bring this up here, just like that. And then we're gonna get rid of this second catch here. And then that should be good to go. I'm gonna change this message here, error deleting user. And then I'm gonna reformat all this by quickly, well, just use right click, and we can say format selection, and that makes it look a little bit nicer. And I think that should be good for us now. So just in summary, what we did there was we took out the nested async functions, and then we went ahead and complied with their warnings for preferring the arrow notation. I'm gonna save that, and let's try that again. There we go. Now we are uploading our functions, and in just a minute we're going to get back a URL that we can use to actually trigger this cloud function, and we'll see how this works. All right, deploy complete. All right, so now what we can do is we can go back to Safari in our Firebase console, and we can come over to functions. And we can see the function that we just created right here, delete user by email. And right here, you can see the URL. So if you copy that, and then we're gonna open up Postman. And what we're gonna do is we're going to create a new request right here. So I'm gonna click here, and we are going to change this to be a post because we are going to be sending data in the body, and that data is the user email that we want to delete. And I'm going to paste our URL for our Cloud function that we just copied. And then we need to add the body. So if you recall, here in our function, we are expecting to be able to get the user email from the request body. So we come over here to body, we're going to be doing raw and JSON application JSON. And then we just make a little JSON object here with the key being user email and the value being whatever email user you want to delete from your Firebase authentication tab. All right, and we are going to do info@johnnybcodes.com. All right, very good. So now if we come back into our simulator and we log out and we come over here to create a new user, we can say Johnny, we can say email is Johnny is info@johnnybcodes.com 123 and we say register. And we are good to go. We registered, but now let's say again, imagining that something went wrong, we want to test it out again. We can say log out, we can say create new user. And now instead of having to do the slow way of going into the console, all we do is we open up Postman and we say send. And that is going to go and trigger that Cloud function that we just created. And here you can see deleted user. And if we go into our functions logs right here, we can see all of the logs of the Cloud functions that have been called recently. And you can see here the logs. It says function execution started, successfully deleted user, function execution took about a second and finished with status code 200. So that is pretty darn cool. All right, so yeah, that's it. So just to show that process again. So we deleted it. So I'm going to say Johnny, info@johnnybcodes.com 123 and register. And now we don't have that. This email is already used by another account, and we can go log out, boom, delete it. So we just deleted it again, and we can say create new user. And we are good to go. And just to show you this in here, we can go to authentication tab and say created, and we can see the info@johnnybcodes.com. And then if we go to Postman and delete it, refresh, that user is no longer there. It has been deleted. Now again, remember, if we do this again, we're going to fail because we already deleted that that user. So just in case you run it twice and you forget and you're wondering why it says failed, it's because you already deleted it. All right, so that is a way to speed up your QA and development process, specifically for registration using Firebase, and also just some little tidbits about Cloud functions. So I hope you picked up a few useful tips here. If you are interested in making the Artable app that you see here, I teach this in my full course on Udemy. Links are in the description. Go check it out. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.